All right, it's Friday, September 22nd. This is an end of the day and end of the week SPY recap. And today, to end the week, we have a 2-down daily bar that after this big red bar yesterday, and actually the big red bar the day before, continued lower. You'd look at it and say we kind of held the midpoint of this bar. When you saw this red bar, you kind of expected the lows to be tested the next day. And if you looked on the chart after yesterday's big drop, you did have another target down here. So, you definitely kind of were expecting lower, but as I'll show you in a minute, the market, started up first, and we'll get into that. The pre-market range was between these blue lines. We started up and eventually came down. On the weekly chart, we were breaking out. This is kind of the recap all week long. I was talking about this, these two inside bars here, what was going to happen, what we were going to start lower and fail and come through it, or was it going to be a strong breakout? And once we established the strong breakout, then obviously the targets were here. There's a target here. Now I drew these yellow lines in place. These are kind of the next targets. There's a low here. There's a fair value gap in here. So I could easily see, since we're not, snapping back after failing through this low, that we're heading towards bigger picture targets. On the monthly chart, we have kind of a 2-down last month that had a little bit of a hammer look, but all month long we've been red, 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 and we have another 2-down. Now normally, the way I used to kind of judge price action, when I'd see 2 down months, let's say on the monthly chart, I'd have to wait for a green month in my mind before I would even consider longs. So we're kind of at that point. That means you almost have to wait an entire, assuming this month, doesn't have a strong rally, which I guess it's possible with a week to go. The only exception I had to that rule, when I really looked at the chart and I could see it was kind of part of an uptrend, like if you just can visualize this uptrend line, it is possible we are coming down here, filling in this fair value gap, and and we could start back up and not have to so much wait for the monthly chart to turn back up. So we'd have to need a weekly reversal of some kind, like a 2 down, 2 up on the weekly chart, to establish that, to say that, hey, maybe we just took out liquidity here and eventually we're going to start back up again, and this is just a big move in this trend line type of thing. If not that I look at trend lines that closely, but it's something where I could, if price action, if the weekly chart wants to reverse next week, maybe we get some kind of a hammer bar or a 2 down, 2 up, I could see getting comfortable with the long side again. But since this damage is done, since there are targets below, a lot of constructive price action has to take place, to really get comfortable on the long side, even though there might be a few days here and there where, we kind of rally a little bit. If we look at the 15-minute chart, we've come down pretty strong. So you can see, if you drew kind of a channel up here, there could be days where we come up and here, fill some gaps before turning lower. And those will be great opportunities should they unfold, but we'll continue to look for that. Anyway, so getting to today's price action, just to kind of see how the day shaped up on the 15-minute structure. First of all, like I said, after this big red day, yesterday closing down here with targets below, the pre-market lows here, you can definitely visualize taking out those lows. And I guess on this very first bar, we went red, and then we kind of, on the 15-minute chart, paused a little bit, took out that low for a split second, and then came back up. I'll show you in a minute why I was on bar number 3 buying the SPY just for a short-term trade. But if I look at the 5-minute chart, I put one up here, the 5-minute chart open on the SPY today, this being the low of yesterday, we came down, 1, 2, this was the first 15-minute bar here, then we came up, then we came down. So I could see, if you wanted to get short here, thinking we're going to take out these lows, you could have done that. But with my, particular methodology, if I get short here and then I come back up to the midpoint of that first bar, so right on the next bar, we would be being stopped down. You can see that here. It's the type of thing where if you went short here, thinking we're going down, the midpoint of that bar right around there is your stop. So it was a pretty quick stop out if you did that. The reason I didn't really get short, I was watching a lot of stocks like Apple and Meta. I actually bought Meta very aggressively, and they were kind of strong. So, and I knew this day we had some exhaustion risk, so I wasn't that excited about the immediate play to the downside, even though it could have been a small loser if you were trading the indexes. But I saw stocks stocks like Apple moving up strong and Meta and everything else. So I was just kind of watching at that point. Anyway, once it went up here, I shot a video and you can look at it, why I figured we were going to take out liquidity on the upside before heading lower first, and that ended up developing. And I shot a mid-morning video about a bunch of other trades I took, so you can go kind of look at that again. Then I shot sort of a SPY morning update once we came down here, and had our little push up into this area and failed. How, to me, that was all I was looking for on the upside. And I actually made a comment, I think I wouldn't be surprised if we come all the way down. I was leaving for the day, but as it turned out, if you wanted to, the way to play that, if you were sticking around, to me, just knowing the context, we still had targets down here of yesterday's low. You could have either on this failure move up with the 2 down, gotten into that. Once I saw this big red bar, anytime I said when I see a big red bar threatening the midpoint of the first bar, knowing we had targets below somewhere in here, you could have got short, and you could have actually done pretty well kind of tracking to these targets down here. Then, of course, anytime you reach a target, what happens? Price, either fails or continues. In this case, we had a big push up, but then just because of the trend, it comes right back. So this was a very tricky end to the week here. But again, I wasn't even trading in the afternoon. So that's the structure, though. To me, maybe a false move down to start. I sense that you were taking out some liquidity to the upside here, even in a downtrend. But then I said I'm not really too interested in much, long, staying in any measured move to the upside. And then I wasn't surprised when I came back and kind of saw this big drop, because that's kind of still what's in play. So we will go into next week. I guess we could see how the week starts out. Do we get a media follow through? There's no actionable signal. We're still at exhaustion risk on the daily chart. So ideally, you'd want to see kind of up movements, maybe into these gaps that then reverse lower. As long as we stay below the midpoint of this week, we'll, anticipate lower prices. But you never know with exhaustion risk. Maybe we start up a little bit. Monday will give us the opening price, and we'll kind of have that benchmark to see if we're above or below that all week long and how the week starts out. On the monthly chart, where we definitely have room to fill this gap lower at these 2 yellow lines. You can see that on the weekly chart a little clearer. So I'm anticipating getting down there until proven otherwise, but I don't know if it's going to be a straight move. And just like kind of today, you're at exhaustion risk in terms of keep playing the down, 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 down every single day. So you got to be tricky, kind of watch how price opens and everything else and make a judgment. But the best trades are going to be sort of, on various failures moving up, I think, that continue lower at this point. So, and while it moves up, there could be some opportunities in the short run to take some trades like that, but we'll just have to see how things unfold. So, this is either going to be the start to a pretty big down move. There's a pivot machine gun kind of in here if you want to even get through these gaps. I mean, a lot of things can happen to the downside here. We're 2 down in the month, 2 in a row. Again, until this really turns around, you just got to be biased to the downside with knowing you're a little exhaustion risk. So a little tricky day today trading, given, 2 big down days in a row, what was going to happen next. But the market is just still displaying weakness, and that's going to be the, the theme until, the weekly chart turns around. So it's going to take at least a full week to me, to even see if we get some kind of reversal to the upside. Other than that, I'm still looking lower to this area and maybe even much lower than that. So let's see what unfolds next week.